and welcome to a brand new episode of the Have You Tried Not Being a Podcast here on That Hashtag Show. I am Yael Teagle. I'm joined as always by Toni Sanchez. Hello, Toni Sanchez.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. Also, Chris Lamb is here. Hello, Chris.
Hello, everyone. Greetings and salutations.
I love your glitter, Chris.
Oh, thank you.
I just saw it now that we made you large and full screen. It's beautiful.
I try to do it every Friday.
It's beautiful. I love it.
It's from the Sailor Moon line from ColourPop.
Yeah.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored. Amazing. Well, today we have a lot to talk about, and we are going to start with the discussion of pronouns. This, I feel like, is a very big discussion. It's in everyone's conversation nowadays. Our pronouns, if you're watching our show, are listed on our screen. I have updated my emails about it. Pronouns are a big thing right now. And I think that it's an interesting moment and an interesting movement that's happening. How are we feeling about pronouns? Toni, I know you have a lot of thoughts on this one.
I have so many thoughts. No, basically, you guys know I'm from the South, and down there, yes, ma'am, no, sir. That's the ubiquitous thing that's used for anybody and everybody, regardless of age, authority, where they are in the social hierarchy. Like parents use it for their kids, and kids use it for teachers, the cashier at the supermarket. So that's just a thing, right? So being instilled with that sort of desire to always express respect through language. So the pronoun thing just always kind of became a natural extension of all right, I want to extend the same respect and deference and show people that I am recognizing them and making them feel comfortable. So that was very natural to me. You and I, actually, we've all had this discussion where I expressed that I was having difficulty, though, when I realized that the whole yes, sir, no, ma'am thing is firmly rooted in the gender binary. And if I didn't know somebody's gender or their specific pronouns, I had difficulty, and I could feel myself being, I was uncomfortable. How do I express, that same level of respect to somebody if I'm not able to use sir or ma'am? So I've had to switch up, my habits and my vocabulary a little bit, and I'm starting to transition to a yes, please, no, thank you, especially if I'm in a situation like, at the deli, in line for a cashier where I don't want to assume. When I would go on Tumblr, Twitter, somewhere, and somebody would say I got misgendered by a stranger today, and it really just brought down my entire day. So for me personally, it's just me trying to ascribe and really respect people's pronouns. I don't want to be the reason why somebody has a bad day or a bad moment in the day, or it's just kind of like a thorn in their side of really could have done without that. That's just the last thing I ever want to do. On a more macro level, I just noticed that we are in this moment of transition, and it is a time of this rapid evolution when it comes to language. And people are frustrated and or confused and or kind of what is, I think most people don't want to be offensive, and they don't want to go ahead and inadvertently, unintentionally offend somebody, but they're also just wrestling with how do I conduct myself in a way, where now it's all these new rules in terms of language and pronouns and how to interact with others.
I think that's a really great way of putting it, because I've actually done a lot of thinking in the past year or two, because I think initially when, I guess, more marginalized folks had more avenues for some come up, and there's more discussion around how to progress as a society and how to be more inclusive of everybody. I think initially when people were using pronouns, ew, and so we kind of responded to that. It's easy to have the response of it's not that hard, and you should be able to deal with it. And I agree with that to an extent, but I also do want to acknowledge that it is actually very hard for people to make that switch in their mind when it's so ingrained in them. I don't want to say that I've grown out of being that type of person, but I try to be a little bit more understanding of people that are frustrated with more pronouns, as opposed to just being straight up mad with them and being oh, so you can't do this, can you? And it's not as simple as that. And I think it's honestly, I don't have the energy to be mad at people who aren't even being malicious. They're just having a difficult time with it, and I think that should be understandable.
Absolutely.
I don't think it needs to be seen as a violent thing to be I don't understand.
Yeah, there is a difference between somebody who is having trouble transitioning, and weeding out certain habits within, their own behaviors and vocabulary. And there's a very big difference between those folks and people who are willfully denying
Yes.
the gender spectrum. Folks who will go ahead and say, like, well, there's only two genders and I'm not going to cater to your narcissism, or, any other sort of condescending, patronizing thing that they do in order to basically just dehumanize somebody's and basically disregard their own existence. Like, there's a huge difference between those two camps of folks.
I have a lot of thoughts on that, but yeah, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say that I think it's really interesting because it is challenging for a lot of people to say, to work on pronouns. First of all, the word pronouns was not a word that I used in my vocabulary. Grammar is not my strong suit. So like knowing what a pronoun is new to me. Raised by foreigners, English words are hard. Here's what I know. I know that I am a cis woman. I use she, her pronouns. And I do struggle as much as I try for my non-binary friends to use they, them pronouns. I do struggle. I do mess up. And I do feel bad, and I do continue to work on it. I think that's what matters. And from, recently there was, I believe there was a day of visibility recently that we missed, a trans day of visibility. And there was a big discussion about pronouns, about non-binary people. And one of the big things that I think really could be helpful to other people who might not be putting their pronouns in their bio yet is knowing that that's the bare minimum you can do. Is by putting your pronouns in your bio, you make it safe for other people to do so as well.
Yes.
And the other big thing, and I've heard a lot of specifically cis women friends of mine say, like, well, I'm obviously a woman, so I don't need to. And that's the like key right there, is that's not it. There is no
That's the problem.
a woman. That's not
that's
a
the
thing.
problem.
Yes.
That's the entire thing we're trying to address here.
Right.
I remember I was going through like some trending TikToks where people are like, just introducing themselves through a song. And I noticed that the people who like are have a lot of Christian content skip the part where they identify their gender or their pronouns, which really pissed me off.
Is it possible that, like me, they did not know what the word pronouns mean?
Well, the part of the song was like,
probably not, but
the song was like, here's a song to get to know about me. I'll start with my name, my age, my something, my gender identity. And so like gender identity is like a little bit more easy to understand, I feel like, and
yes.
The person just did not put any text for that part, which I thought was so funny. I'm like, oh, like this is a little like rebellion against like pronouns and stuff. But in regards to what you were saying, Toni, about like the people who are willfully denying that there's nothing except he or she, I think it's so funny because like these are the type of people that are like facts over feelings. And I'm not saying that facts are not important, because they are, but if we're gonna do facts over feelings, it's very funny that these people would mention that, because back then they was actually used as a singular pronoun. So, and which is funny because they make that argument that, well, they has always been used as a plural pronoun. And I'm like, yeah.
It's so great that you bring that up, because I have started implementing they, them pronouns in Sunday school. So for those who don't know, I teach Jewish Sunday school. And God as a being is neither male nor female. And the fact that it is written out in texts using him makes no sense to me. Therefore, my students in my class work on referring to God as they, them, because God is neither male nor female. So like, if anything, for a conservative Christian, this should be the simplest thing to understand.
Yeah, it's this weird thing, right, where it's like you see this being as like higher than humans, right? Mm-hmm. But you want that being to, but apparently you want that being to be close enough to you where like it does conform to like whatever way you categorize humans, which is kind of dumb.
Yeah, I find it funny that I have an English degree, so I am somebody that deals in words and whatnot, and I'm very familiar with grammar and just the particles and
Lucky
elements of
you.
language. I know, yay! Something I can do with my English degree, yay! Um, so I think it's funny when people are just so insistent on that English does not have gender neutral pronouns or ways of addressing folks, and it's like we do. It's just that now people are sort of politicizing it as opposed to just extending the grace and the manners and etiquette that you would want to extend to somebody else. For me, it's a very hard and fast rule of just like it's a matter of etiquette. If you're, and I know some people just get really overwhelmed whenever they start thinking about it on a macro level. And I always recommend that people should think of it on a very micro level. If you are if you have somebody in your life who is trans, non-binary, gender non-conforming, you need to find out what those pronouns are, and you need to try very hard to go ahead and implement them the way that they would want to. When it comes to coming across folks that maybe you do, we talked about the problem of assuming somebody's gender because like obviously I'm a woman, or whatever those folks are saying. It's like, what happens if you come across somebody where you can't safely make that assumption? I've come across that. I live in LA, and I was at a deli and I came across somebody, who was, I would describe as very androgynous. So I couldn't, confidently assume a pronoun for them. So I just realized like, oh, this is going to be something that's also going to be useful for me, just because there are folks out there who don't ascribe to a specific standard of beauty that I could go ahead and say definitively is masculine, feminine. Maybe it's beyond the binary and it's nowhere near what I'm used to, coming across, but I still want to be respectful and just kind. So I feel like that's going to be very important. It's just useful. It really is. You just have to approach it just on little everyday micro occurrences. And when people just expand it out, I feel like we're talking about something quite differently.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think we're asking, not us, but like, I mean, we are asking with people who actually like require a broadening of what pronouns are. But I don't think we or they were asking for people to change overnight. And we're not asking for people to like feel awful about themselves if they mess up one time or a couple of times, because I, I think it is understandable, again, that it's something that is very hard to make that switch in your brain, but it's just important to still take it seriously without like beating yourself up over it,
Mm-hmm.
Because I do have very good friends who I would say that, in the most non-offensive way possible, like their physical presentation does not traditionally match like how someone would like off the bat gender them. They're usually very forgiving. Like they're very firm with me, which I appreciate, but they are very forgiving of me. Like they will not cancel me just because I accidentally slip up one time or two.
Sure. I mean, we all, I'm sure, have misgendered people just in conversation, just as you speak. Words come out wrong sometimes. There's a whole really great, I think, Board Panda article of like people saying things wrong. And that's funny. So sometimes, when I was younger, the whole thing where you accidentally call your teacher mom, like we sometimes mess up. That's human nature. And I think that as long as you register that you messed up and do better, I think it's okay. And I'm speaking as someone who is a cis woman who uses she, her pronouns, who presents female and identifies as female. So I'm not the authority on this. This is not my forte, but I think the big thing is respect. As Toni was saying, it's about being polite. It's about etiquette. When someone says something is offensive, instead of arguing with them, accept that they are offended and
Yeah.
fix it.
It's
Right.
the same thing as like, could you please not talk about this topic because it activates me. It like brings up really bad memories or feelings for me, like from some sort of trauma or experience or something.
Sure.
Like you wouldn't be like, oh well, I don't have that I don't have that what you have, so like I'm just gonna keep talking and not give a shit about what you want.
Right. The hard and fast rule is that pronouns are extension of somebody's name, right? It's what we use in place of somebody's very specific individual name. So I feel like a lot of people, they understand like it is rude to mispronounce somebody's name, especially if they've taken care to go ahead and pronounce it for you, right? it's rude to call them by the wrong name, especially if they've gone ahead and made certain care that you actually know their name, right? So
Yeah.
if you're intentionally doing those things, you are rude. If you're mispronouncing it on accident, if you accidentally call somebody the wrong name, like, oh my God, my parents, they don't know how to ever just call their one child that they actually mean to call. Like, I don't ever think for a moment that my parents are being me. It's just like, okay, that's a flub, right? Um, and it's the same thing here. I think the line is crossed though when you insist, like, no, that's not actually your name. That's not actually how you would say that name. That's not actually how you would address yourself. When you start discounting and start telling people that you know how they want to be addressed more than they do, that's just a weird boundary to cross.
That's a you problem. That's a you
Right.
problem.
And it's like,
Like
what?
that's not that person's problem who's asking for a different pronoun. Like that's a you problem. It's not like I understand that it's hard to make that switch, but also like it's not that hard to at least acknowledge that you should
Right.
accommodate that person a little bit more.
And I feel like the fear and the frustration that people inevitably feel, it's a very well, human beings, we're animals, right? And instead of relying on our physical prowess in order to like acquire food, shelter, anything else to make us secure, we rely on social interaction. And now we've introduced these new rules for social interaction in a way that makes people feel insecure about their own ability to be equipped in order to have an optimal social interaction. And it's like, okay, but this is a moment for you to learn. And nobody here is now going to, like, you're not going to be hunted in the forest because we're no longer in a predator prey frame of living anymore. All you need to do is just take a moment, learn these social skills that are going to allow you to have optimal social interactions. And you're no longer going to feel the trepidation and the fear and the vulnerability that I think most people fear whenever they do start lashing out and getting defensive.
Honestly, one of the solutions I always offer people, especially someone who speaks a gendered language, for example, my mother teaches Hebrew, and that is a gendered language. And she has a student who has a child who is non binary. And my mother came to me to explain it to her. And I said the easiest solution, because you do not have a they situation, is to say that person's name. Yes, the language sounds ridiculous. If I want to talk about Toni and I say Toni went to the store and then Toni did this and then Toni did that, yes, it sounds obnoxious rather than saying a pronoun, but it's correct and it's not going to hurt anybody. So if you struggle that much with they, them, and God being they, them is too hard for you, throw the name in. Say the name a bunch.
Yeah.
That's the solution.
There are a bunch of different ways to be kind, considerate, and polite. And I feel like people do know the line. I just feel like they haven't yet acquired the language to describe why they feel so weird about pronouns, if they do feel weird about pronouns.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation that I would love to get into is like just like how with the lack of resources of like mental health and mental counseling that we have in this country, like I do think it is very hard for people to put it into words, like why they don't like a certain thing and they don't like a certain type of progress in society. And so they just like stick with it and use frankly stupid reasons to justify why they will continue to sustain their behavior.
Their habits, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope we've given you some options, some things to think about. I hope everyone updates their bio. I know you might think that it's an unnecessary thing, but what it does is it tells your friends that you care and there's somebody out there that it matters to. Mm-hmm. So feel free to put your pronouns wherever you'd like. Let's move it along to a fun segment today. We are playing Derby or Drag.
Woo!
So we're gonna get some names presented to us, and we are going to have to guess if it's a roller derby player or a drag queen.
Also, just to preface this, none of us know this. This is our lovely producer Sarah doing this for us through our chat.
Yeah. All right. Number 1, Harlot Oscara.
Oh, this is so good.
That's a good one.
I'm going with drag queen.
Yeah, I'm gonna say drag queen too. I don't know if a roller derby person would do this, but I would stand for them if they did.
I'm gonna say derby.
It's derby.
Yeah!
Wow.
I won.
I had an inkling that this was a trick one.
Good one. All right, number 2, Charity Case.
Oh.
I'm gonna go with drag queen again.
I'm going to say so too, just because from my research, I think derby names are usually like a little more aggressive sounding, like battle-ish. So.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'll go with queen, drag queen.
It is a drag queen.
We're
Yes.
all winners.
No, all winners.
Number three. Big Red. Derby. I'm going with Derby. Also, Bring It On. Well, you guys are really thinking about this.
I'm not sure if this is a trick one too.
Right.
I didn't realize how competitive you two are.
I'm going to go with drag queen.
I'm gonna go with Derby.
It is Derby.
Yes.
Did I say Derby? I think I said Derby. I'm going to take that as a win. All right.
What did I say just 2 minutes ago?
I'm just going with instinct. All right. Number 4.
Wow.
This is a hard one too. This is really good, Sarah.
Lesmeralda.
Very funny name.
Yeah, that's a great name. I want to say Derby, like my first instinct, just because, I mean, Derby is a very LGBT inclusive space.
I'm also doing Derby.
Oh, I'm going to go with Queen. Even though my first instinct is Derby, I'm going to go with Queen.
I'm going to go with Derby very hesitantly.
I know.
Derby!
Yay!
See, follow your instincts, kids. Follow your instincts.
Number 5. Champagne.
Nice.
Oh,
Derby.
that's great.
Queen.
Derby.
If it's not a queen, I'm going to be so upset.
Survey says no.
Wow. I said Derby.
Me and Yael, we're too logical for this.
I thought Pain. I was like, Pain is definitely Derby, right?
Yeah, and I was like, Sham's kind of like a more masculine-ish sounding name, so maybe it's not a queen name. I don't know. No shade to the queen who has that name. I'm so sorry. Oh, Juice box with 2 X's.
2 X's.
I'm going to go with Queen.
Queen, yeah.
So Little Giants was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid, and the girl in that is called the Icebox, so I'm going to say it's a Derby name.
Always the rebel here.
I know.
The Maverick.
Yeah!
And you're right.
God damn it!
You're right.
Oh my god! Oh yeah.
Right, last one. Amphetamine.
That's a fantastic name.
Fantastic.
Toni, you said?
I said Queen. I'm going to pick Queen.
I agree.
I'm also going to go Queen. All 3 of us. Queen!
Hey!
All right. Let's tally up those scores and let you know who won, because apparently 2 of our people are competitive and actually care.
What?
Ooh, Chris and I tied?
Oh, well, yeah, probably as the lowest one. What?
Oh!
One behind?
I'm one behind.
I thought Toni had such a streak. I thought she totally crushed us.
I would hope so, but apparently not. Thanks, Sarah. Okay, crush my drinks.
I'm shocked. And Toni, you can have my win tied with Chris.
I won.
No,
okay.
I'll hand you. I'll just hand you the win, because like I feel
that was a cool game. I like that game a lot.
That was actually really hard.
I love it. If you were playing along at home, let us know how you did. Also, if you like this game and want to suggest names, send those to us in the comments on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this podcast. We'll implement those next time. But now it is time to head into some headlines. So back in August, California gave the right to trans, intersex, and non-binary inmates in the prison system to choose to be housed in the male or female prisons. According to the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, just over 1% of the state's prison population have identified themselves as trans, intersex, or non-binary. And while this group is quite small, this move is a huge step towards protecting inmates and keeping them safe.
Attention Queer as Folk fans! Another series is on its way. Peacock officially ordered a reboot of the series, which will be set in New Orleans and follow a diverse group of friends whose lives are transformed in the aftermath of a tragedy.
All right. Could do without the tragedy, but all right. As we've mentioned before on our show, there are not many queer teen films that aren't about coming out. So it's exciting to hear that the creative team behind Indie Shiva Baby, Emma Seligman and Rachel Sennett, are co-writing a high school sex comedy called Bottoms. According to Deadline, Bottoms follows 2 unpopular queer girls who start a secret club to have sex before their high school graduation. W Magazine describes it as Mean Girls meets Fight Club meets American Pie meets Euphoria. And that's a lot of references that hopefully will add up to a good movie.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
One hopes, yes.
So while we don't like to praise Amazon, and especially not for doing the bare minimum, it should be noted that Amazon's vice president of public policy made a statement last month regarding their choice to stop selling any book that, quote, frames LGBTQ plus identity as mental illness. According to the Wall Street Journal, the announcement came in response to an inquiry from 4 Republican senators about why, when Harry became Sally responding to the transgender moment, was no longer available on Amazon. Obviously, conservatives are mad, which feels on brand. But what do we think? Is Amazon doing something good, or is it just Amazon doing Amazon?
That's a pretty good question, I would say. It's not a surprise to anybody, I think, that I do not like Jeff Bezos at all. And I'm also very much aware that Amazon is trying to unionize right now. So, I mean, I'll take wins where I can get them, but I'm also like, I think this is just par for the course, to be honest. I don't know about you, Toni and Yael.
I mean,
Yeah.
is it a win?
I,
Sure.
I okay. I mean, I think the historical fact that there used to be a time when LGBTQ identity was regarded as mental illness, that idea, that fact is out there. Amazon has stopped selling this particular book and other books like it that frame, LGBTQ identity as mental illness. Are they still available somewhere else out there? I'm sure Amazon, shocker, is not the only book, vendor out there in the world, even though we sometimes forget that. But yeah, there is a part of me that is kind of like, all right, censorship and allowing information to be free and available for anybody who wants it out there. But at the same time, I can't I can't say that I'm like upset that they're taking books, off of their shelves, so to speak, just because it sells this very obsolete and very harmful perspective that we now know is not true. It's not factual. It no longer serves an actual medical or factual purpose anymore. It's just now, in my eyes, just kind of regarded as a historical quirk and as proof of what our communities had to deal with. Where, yeah, LGBT folks used to be, we used to be committed and taken away to mental facilities because of our identities. Yeah, this is just a kind of weird thing where it's like, on the one hand, I'm not really in support of people just kind of taking away accessibility to information and things like that, but on the other hand, yeah, F that. Like, that's not exactly something that needs to be out there as like gospel truth, because it is wrong. It's no longer correct anymore. It does not serve the purpose that it thought it was serving at the time. Yeah, so this is just a weird thing. And as far
Also,
as like Amazon, like, okay, thanks, Amazon.
Also, I'm just so over like modern day like Republicans being like, well, what about this then? If you're gonna do this good thing, then what about this thing then? Like I'm so over like false equivalencies and over like whataboutisms. Like it's so fucking like infuriating to me. And this does feel like a drop in the bucket. I actually should do more research on this, but like I would not put it past that Amazon probably has other harmful things on their site that they're selling probably. And we all know that they have the resources to get rid of those things too, but are they? I don't know.
Really great question. I think on the one hand, let's not censor, let's not burn books. On the other hand, let's move it to fiction, like
Right.
move it where it belongs, not
Right.
fact.
Yeah, and I you can't really legislate what somebody is going to do with a specific piece of information. There are some folks who I'm sure would like to see that book and kind of just see like, okay, let's see where, the theory and the beliefs began, especially within the medical community, and where it's now transitioned to. But I don't know. It's just I don't know. Like, if this information is already out there, that specific book, maybe it's already out there on a free site, those specific passages that relate very specifically to LGBTQ identity being regarded as mental illness. And then for the sake of somebody maybe doing, their dissertation, a thesis of some sort, they can still access that information.
Sure.
Like, okay, great, cool. But yeah, it's just a weird thing where we're now, but then again, it's a private company. They can do whatever they want. And it's just a weird gray area. Cause it's like, part of me is like, yeah, F that noise. The other part is just like, oh, I don't know, slippery slope. And I hate that part of me.
Right.
So yeah.
Well,
I feel icky, Yael. Thank you for bringing this to my attention.
Like,
let me make you feel better.
Oh. did they make this announcement in like a celebratory type of way? Like, isn't it great that we're doing this? Or was it just like a more casual, formal type of thing?
Based on what I've seen, it was a casual thing. Somebody asked for something and they responded with, "We're no longer doing that." It wasn't
that's
like,
good.
"We are no longer doing this."
Okay, that's good. Because I would be a lot more angry if they were like, "Hey guys, we're not doing this anymore. Isn't that great?
Aren't we cool?"
Right. It's like, welcome to the century.
21.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, on a more positive note, here at Have You Tried Not Being a Podcast, we love to spotlight LGBTQ plus owned companies, especially ones that are giving back to our own community. So as a reminder, we have partnered with Fluid Beauty to bring you 25% off using our code #show25. That is a discount you can get at any time over at Fluid Beauty. And if you want to hear about all the great things they're doing, check out our first episode where we told you all about them and launched a giveaway. That's about it for today's episode. What an amazing conversation we have had, and we've had some fun. But until next episode, Chris, where are you on the internet and where can everyone keep up with you?
People can find me everywhere using the username One Winged Chris. That is one spelled out. And I hope to see you around if you're interested.
Awesome. And Toni, where are you these days and where are you on the internet?
I'm on all the social medias at the Toni Sanchez, Toni with an I, Sanchez with a Z. See you guys next time.
And I am Yael Teagle. I'm everywhere at Yael Teagle. That's YAELTYGIEL. Keep an eye on my Twitter to see all of the other places that I am doing things, such as my Twitch, where I am trying to play video games and failing miserably. That's it for us here on Have You Tried Not Being a Podcast? Thanks for joining us. Bye.
We're just really concerned for you, like, we're just worried about the children,
All
like,
the children.
we just would really like you to maybe reflect and, like, we just care about you,
Still doing this bit.
Wait a minute, time out. Okay, now our producer is saying that she counted the tallies wrong. Chris and Toni have tied. Yael was one behind.
That's not surprising.
We won.
I was right.
We all won except for Yael.
Do we need to re-announce it?
No.
Okay.
This is going to be a good end to this podcast. Put it in, Sarah. Now fade us out.
This is the best ending to the video game.